Welcome back to the Late Night Madness on W Fool Radio. You tune into the only show where chaos comes complimentary. The only duo brave enough to talk nonsense with conviction. Ladies and gentlemen, Shabba, Kate, two talking fools.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Two Talking Fools podcast. My name is Kate. I'll be your co-host today. We are the Two Talking Fools, just two average, and I mean average girls taking their phone calls to the podcast. Welcome back, you guys. It is Monday. It is the first Monday in March. The sun is shining. It's warmer. It just feels good. It feels good to be a New Englander. It feels good that spring's on the way, and it feels good that it's March. So welcome back. Hey, listen, over the weekend, Shabba and I, if you follow us on social media, we did a food review at the Traveler Restaurant in Union, Connecticut. We had a really good time. First time for both of us being there, even though we've lived in this Connecticut region for many years of our life. The number one Facebook comment is like, I can't believe you guys have never been there before. We agree. We totally agree. So welcome back to the podcast. Today, I want to talk about something we bring up a lot, which is what happened to the American mall? Like, what happened to it? Whether we go in one distance or we go in the other, the malls that we have around us, the malls that we see, they're all dying. And I always say, like, what happened? When did it happen? When did it start? And so today, I would like this podcast to be what happened to the American mall. And I'll be honest with you, it feels strangely emotional when thinking about it. And as we talk about this today, it's clear that the American mall for 80s and 90s kids and people in that time period, it was more than just a mall. And we're going to talk about that today. Because for so many of us, a mall was not just simply a building. It was where we hung out after school. It's where we got our first job. It's where we went on awkward middle school dates. It's where we met friends, walked laps, bought prom outfits, grabbed pretzels, and spent hours doing absolutely nothing. The mall was America's indoor town square. And now, in so many towns across the country, those same malls are quiet. Parking lots are empty. Anchor stores are boarded up. Entire wings are dark. Some malls have been demolished. Others are half alive and half abandoned. So what happened? The decline of the American mall is not just about Amazon. It is not just about teenagers being on their phones. It is not just about one bad economy or one pandemic. It is a result of overbuilding, shifting consumer habits, economic pressure on the middle class, the collapse of department stores, and the digital transformation of retail. Let's start at the beginning. After World War II, America experienced a massive suburban expansion. Families moved out of cities and into newly developed suburbs. With that shift came car culture and a need for centralized retail hubs. The enclosed mall solved that problem perfectly. It was climate controlled, it was safe, and it was convenient. Department stores like Sears, JCPenney, and Macy's became anchors. These stores were massive and powerful. They drew in thousands of shoppers. Smaller stores inside the mall thrived because they benefited from the steady foot traffic. For decades, this model worked almost flawlessly. By the 1980s and 1990s, malls were booming. Teen culture revolved around them. Movies featured them. Fashion trends were born inside of them. But beneath the surface, a structural problem was growing. America built too much retail space. Compared to many other developed nations, the United States developed significantly more retail square footage per person. That meant more malls competing for the same shoppers. When economic conditions shifted even slightly, weaker malls began to struggle. Then came the slow decline of the anchor stores. Sears, once one of the largest retailers in the world, closed thousands of stores over 2 decades. JCPenney filed for bankruptcy in 2020. Macy's announced plans to close 150 stores as it restructures its footprint. When anchor stores disappear, malls lose their gravitational pull. Foot traffic drops immediately. Smaller stores begin to suffer. Vacancy increases. The mall begins to feel empty, and once a mall feels empty, customers stop seeing it as a destination. At the same time, online shopping fundamentally reshaped consumer behavior. E-commerce now represents a significant percentage of total retail sales in the United States, and that number has steadily grown over the past decade. Consumers discovered that convenience and comparing prices instantly, reading reviews, and having items delivered directly to their homes. Online retail does not require massive parking lots, escalators, or even physical anchors to create traffic. It operates around the clock. The mall was built around browsing and discovery. Online retail is driven by algorithms and personalization. Instead of wandering through stores hoping to find something, your phone suggests what you want before you even search for it. That is not a small change. That is a complete transformation of how buying decisions are made. Then came the pandemic. When COVID-19 lockdowns began, foot traffic to malls collapsed almost overnight. Many stores were already operating on thin margins, never reopened. Consumers who had been hesitant to shop online became comfortable doing so for everything: groceries, clothing, electronics, even home goods. For struggling malls, the pandemic acted like an accelerant. It sped up trends that were already in motion. But here is something important. Not all malls are dying. The strongest malls in affluent areas have reinvented themselves. They added luxury brands, high-end dining, entertainment venues, and mixed-use development, including apartments and office space. These malls function more like lifestyle centers than traditional retail corridors. Weaker malls, especially in areas with declining populations or lower median incomes, have struggled more severely. Across the country, many former malls are being repurposed. Some have become medical centers. Others have been converted into community colleges, churches, distribution centers, or mixed residential developments. In some cases, they have been demolished entirely to make room for new projects. The mall, as we know it, may be fading, but the physical structures are often being adapted rather than erased. And perhaps the most important part of this conversation is cultural. The mall represents a specific era of American life, one where community and gathering happened physically and retail was central to social interaction. Today, community often happens online. Social interaction is digital. Shopping is personalized and instantaneous. Entertainment is on demand. The American mall is not just a retail casualty. It is a symbol of how society evolves. When we look at an empty mall, it feels nostalgic because it reminds us of a time when our lives were structured differently, when weekends revolved around physical spaces instead of screens, when discovery required walking, not scrolling. So what happened to the American mall? We built too much of it. The anchor stores collapsed. Technology rewrote shopping behavior. The pandemic accelerated the shift, and culture moved forward. The mall is not simply dying. It is transforming into something new. And like many American institutions before it, what survives will not be what stays the same. It will be what adapts. The story of the American mall is ultimately a story about change, about economics, technology, and culture colliding. And whether we miss it or not, the mall reflects something bigger: how America reinvents itself again and again. And just by reading that to you, I get emotional. I get emotional. It's no different than getting emotional thinking about things in your childhood or things that once were. For some reason, when it's not here anymore, it's sad. because those times as in our youth were probably some of the best times that we've ever had. They were some of the most special times that we ever had. And your childhood should be and are some of the most beautiful times that you have. So, the American Mall and what happens from here, I think online shopping just continues to take over. But it's funny to me, we talked about this on a couple podcasts ago, and it's similar in the sense we're a new generation that is lonely and looking for socialization. However, when we think about socialization, it's overwhelming. And so we often say we want to socialize, but we don't want to take the measures to do so like we did back in the olden days, back in the 80s, 70s, the 90s. We don't visit people like we once did. I think for some of us, we feel like in order to have people over, instead of just having them come to the table and sit around and talk, you feel like you got to do too much. You got to have an appetizer, have drinks ready, this or that. So we made life overcomplicated. So whether it's the mall that's leaving us and making way for online to take over, or it's the simple art of visiting people. They're totally different, but they're the same. Things are evolving. And like we say, socialization now, instead of happening under a building or in a building, a lot of it's happening online. That's what we're getting used to, thanks to the pandemic and just evolution of technology and moving forward. So I want to know, how do you feel about the American Mall? And if you have a mall near you, what does it look like? Is it where the Target's the only store open in it? Or does it still have stores? Is it still functioning? Do you still go there? Are there restaurants connected to it? In my town, the Enfield Square Mall in Enfield, Connecticut was iconic. That was our mall. And we had Buckland Hills. And Buckland Hills still operates today, though it's missing many of their anchor stores. Seems like Macy's is holding on by a thread. And JCPenney, you know, like how much longer does JCPenney stay open for? These are the questions. I'll tell you though, you've heard me say this before and I'll say it again. The day that JCPenney closes, Kate's going to cry. Anyways, guys, that's all I wanted to talk about today. That's the topic I wanted to talk about today is the American Mall. You drive by them and you're saying to yourself, what happened? How does this happen? How does a mall that was once thriving now not thrive at all? And I think we got our answers in there. Everybody, make sure you check us out at the twotalkingfools.com website. If you're interested in merchandise, go to the merch tab. That's changing and updating all the time. Other than that, we've got some great topics in the works coming your way and shorter form content for now, kind of like in these 15-minute episodes. Guys, keep smiling, keep dreaming, keep being kind to one another. Check us out. Make sure you follow us. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. TwoTalkingFools.com. My name's Kate. Thank you for being here today.
City
And we will
lights
see you
humming,
on the
vinyl
next one.
breathing cool. Two talking fools, breaking rules while they laugh and cruise. Everybody tunes in 'cause they love these fools. Do I flip in the boom bap? You turn it up loud for the talking fools. Do I flip in the boom bap? You turn it up loud for the talking fools. We spinning stories like vinyl gold. Yeah, tape is warming up every episode. We don't stay on cue, we just go where it flows. Chaos in control. That's